Hi there, and welcome to the Anxiety Society podcast, brought to you by Jordan Devlin and Scott Hope. This is a show where you can listen to people talk about their life experiences in relation to mental health. Visit Jordan's Anxiety Society on Facebook for updates on how you can get involved in future podcasts. But for now, sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Cool.
So this is now, what's it, episode 9
Episode 9
of the Anxiety Society podcast. Today we're joined by, is it Zoe McGlade? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Zoe McGlade. So how's it going, Scotty?
Not bad. This is the first international podcast. Across the Irish Sea here. It's exciting. Thanks very much for doing this.
No problem. I like to spread awareness.
Aye, that's good.
Where I can.
Aye. We are terrible at this.
As you can tell.
We've just spent the last 10 minutes. It's like we get so nervous before these.
You're grand.
We had to go to Argos this morning to buy a webcam because the laptop one looks like it's from the 80s. And it still looks like we've just went and bought a webcam and it still looks terrible, so we apologise.
Oh God.
How's it going anyway over in Dublin?
Yeah, grand. We're still in level 5 lockdown over here, so everything's still shut. It's pretty shit.
How has it been over there? Like, obviously, because you are like your own government and stuff, whereas we're like dictated by England pretty much. So how have you kind of handled the whole COVID situation over in Ireland?
Oh, terrible. Like so bad. We're like in our worst lockdown now than we were like when it first began. Like, this is the worst one out of all of them. Like the most strict one as well. And like we're like over a year into it. They're literally so bad. It's so stupid.
So what do you think's caused that? Has that been like taking you out of the first lockdowns a little bit early and stuff, or?
No, I think like after like the first lockdown was grand, like that was like needed, whatever, and then the second one they put like all the kids and everything back into school before they even opened that else back up, and then the cases start going mad high again, and then they opened pubs and everything, and then they were blaming pubs and gyms and everything for the cases going back up, even though the skills were the reason, and then they just shut everything back down again, and we've literally been like this since before Christmas.
It was definitely the skills. It's the same over here, like similar to what happened in Ireland. Like they closed everything, and school was the first one because it's like kids are the education, like they need their priorities and stuff, and then the cases start going up, but they started opening pubs even though the cases were going up, and they were like, it must be the pubs then. It's like, fuck's sake. So we're just starting to get out of it now a little bit, but we're actually socially distanced right now. It's the new webcam that we've got.
It's one of these split screen things that they've got in the telly.
So just let people know a bit about you first, because obviously, like, I'm guessing, do you know a lot of people from Scotland?
No.
We the first two.
We the first two.
Yeah.
Right.
Like just basic information, like
just a bit about you.
Well, I live in Dublin in Ireland. I'm 23. I work as a makeup artist, and I have a little boy who's 1.5, a little nut job. And that's basically the most exciting thing about my life.
Yeah.
Anytime anyone says, tell me about yourself, I always just end up talking about the baby. I'm like, I'm not even myself anymore. It's just the baby.
Feel free to tell us a bit about that. How are you coping with that?
Good, yeah, grand. Like he's a messer, like, but he's been a good baby, like, ever since he was born. Like, he's never been, like, I've never really had any problems with him. Like, he was never like a crier or a bad sleeper or a bad eater or anything, so he's made it easy.
That must be strange, especially like for him, that he's grew up during lockdown. Like, that's basically his whole life.
Yeah, so like that's why I always say, like, he thinks like that this is normal, like being stuck inside all the time. That's so weird. Like, he doesn't know that he's missing out on like so much things.
I know. Is there any like family that he's yet to meet, or that he would have met otherwise, or have you been lucky that way?
Well, his dad's family, he's not met any of them. Like he's met like his like sisters and stuff, but all like his extended family, like his aunties and uncles, his cousins, like he's never met any of them. And yeah, he's met pretty much all of my family because we're all local, like around, but his family all lives in a different county. So like he's going to be 2 this year and he's still not met any of them. It's so weird.
So it'll be weird though, because they'll obviously be seeing photos and stuff on social media, like him gradually growing.
Yeah.
But then the first time they see him, we'll be like, what, 2-3 years old? And be like,
yeah. So weird.
That's weird. Like, just even to see everybody walking about in masks and that, he must think that's the norm.
Yeah, like,
but
I don't know. It's so weird.
I can't wait to get rid of these masks. I hate I hate them. They're I hate not being able to smile at people.
I know.
It's horrible.
You can tell with somebody's eyes though, really, if they're smiling.
It's not the same though. It's not the same as showing the gnash or something.
Gnashers getting so in terms of the whole, obviously the mental health aspect, obviously that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Where would you want to start talking about that? Because I think what brought it about was you put up a Instagram story and it was like a poll type thing, and you were like, I'll just let you speak a bit about it.
Yeah, so basically I had obviously I'm like very open about everything. Like I've always been open about it on my social media, and I had a DM from a girl who told me that she was like having some problems and stuff, and she wanted to go to therapy, but she was really embarrassed like to go, and she didn't want anyone to know. But she asked me like, could I like recommend anyone? Did I know of anyone good around our area? And like that was really like weird for me to hear, like that someone was embarrassed to go. So I was like, I wonder if this is like actually how a lot of people feel. So that's why I put up the polls, to just kind of get like a general like outlook like on what people actually feel when it comes to therapy. And it was mad because I think over like 500 people voted that they did go or they do go, and out of over 500 people, there was less than 20 of them were boys and all the rest were girls. So I was like, maybe that's just boys just skipping over it, they're not answering, maybe they're embarrassed. But then on my other polls, like there was like hundreds of boys like voting on them. So I was like, it's really interesting to see like the difference in the number of girls who are open about going to or who have gone, to the number of boys who aren't saying or who haven't gone. Just really weird.
It's definitely strange. There is a problem there. I suppose boys are maybe skipping past that, because if they click yes, I'd feel embarrassed, then I might come across as like a weakness type thing. But I know it's very strange, because it's still a massive problem, as we're probably well aware in today's day and age, that there is a problem with mental health out there and it's not being dealt with in the right ways. But I think it's a lot of people, like, as we say, like this whole stigma side of things, that are scared of being judged about it all, or like don't want to go and see a therapist or something. But the sooner we kind of get past that, it's similar like if you cut your hand open, you go to A&E. If you're struggling mentally, go to your local GP and like speak to a therapist or something.
And after like I posted them polls, I had like loads of messages off people being like saying the same thing, like that they were scared to go, or like that they went and they like it was too hard for them, so they left. And like even I had some people being like, which I've gotten like a lot growing up, like, but like, you're such a confident person, like you hardly like have like anxiety or whatever. And I'm like, but that's the thing, like you don't have to be sitting in your room hiding away from everyone, like have no friends, crying all the time, like for you to have these problems. Like literally anyone can get them. And that's why I was like, I'm going to make it a point to talk about my whole experience from the beginning, so people can see like I was traveling all over the world. I was a dancer traveling all over the world, dancing, doing competitions, like doing shows, auditions and everything. But I was still having like really severe panic attacks, like to the point that I would black out and end up in hospital. But you wouldn't know that when you're looking at me on stage, like dancing or looking at me at an audition, because I am a really confident person. So that's why I was like, I'm going to make it a point to like explain my whole way through all this so that everyone can see that it's a normal thing, and it doesn't have to be hidden, or you don't have to be embarrassed, and it can happen to normal people. Like, you don't have to be some like socially awkward like person that doesn't have friends, or that's like just cries all the time, overeats or undereats. Like, it's not like these like stigmatized like stereotypes that people associate with it anymore. It's literally like it could be your best friend and you don't even know. Like,
it's funny you say that, because like how this whole podcast came about was like me personally, I've never really struggled with anything like that. But when Jordan started the charity, that's when I first had heard that he even suffered with anything like that. And we've been good friends for what, 10 years, something like that. Maybe, and I always thought he just got the fear through like alcohol. Like,
yeah,
that's all I thought it was. I didn't think he'd actually suffered from any like anxiety attacks or anything like that. So just, it's funny you say that, like it could be your best friend that, and you don't even know that they're going through it. And it took him to start a charity before I knew.
Yeah. It's mad, like, because I've always, like, this is grown up, like, this is normal for me, but I kind of became really passionate for it when one of my best friends took his own life, and it was going on 3 years now, and he was actually my cousin as well, and literally nobody had any idea that this was going on for him. Like, if like you knew him, he was the happiest, like smiliest, funniest person you ever meet. Like, as soon as he walked into a room, everyone was just instantly in a better mood. You know, like one of them people, their good mood is just infectious, and that was his personality. And this still happened to him, and not a single person knew that this was going on. So that's why I always am trying to like put it out there, especially to boys. Like, so I have brothers. Like, I don't have any sisters. I only have brothers, and now I obviously have a son as well. So I'm like imagine that was my brother or my son, like, that was going through this, and I didn't even know about it. So that's why it's like, it's really important for you to speak out and to talk about it. Even to one person. You don't have to go and tell the whole world. You don't have to tell everyone. Like, but one person is enough just to know, to be able to be there to check on you, to make sure everything's okay. Because if he had told one person, like, he could still be here right now. Like, and that's like the reality of it. Like, the only way you can help yourself is talking and is putting it out there.
It's a strange one. It's just when you're talking about like the whole infectious personality and like always been like the life and soul of the party. We had a guest on, it was about 2 weeks ago now. Kate, she was talking about her uncle who was like probably the exact same. Like, just always like the good vibes in a party, or like always the one that's upbeat, speaking to everybody, having a laugh.
Yeah.
It's just weird how like the whole outer shell can be so different to what's happening on the inside.
Yeah. It's scary.
And we've done a few of these now, and that seems to be an unfortunate common theme, as Ginger was saying. That it tends to be people like that do tend to take their own lives, I think, and I think that's what makes it so difficult to take. Is these people are seem on the surface so happy.
Yeah. And like,
and it makes it so difficult to help them.
Yeah, and like one thing that I did like learn from like going to therapy and talking about this, like, because it was really like hard to talk about, and one of my therapists actually told me, like, the reason it is always these people is because when they've made the decision like to do that, it's like a peace like comes over them, like they're happy, they know that they're not going to be feeling this way anymore, they're going to be out of their pain, and that's why they tend to be so upbeat and so happy all the time, because like they know it's coming to an end for them, if that makes sense, which is so, like, I don't know, it just gives me goosebumps even saying that.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's a sensitive, it's like a very sensitive subject to speak about and stuff. And like everybody that's come on, like, I take my hat off to them, because it does take a lot, even in coming on this, to speak about stuff, because at the end of the day, it is going to go on YouTube and Spotify and stuff. So like there are other people that are going to listen to it. and hopefully they'll listen to it for benefit.
Yeah,
But obviously, you'll probably know better than me. The social media world can be a very dark place. I don't know. Have you ever had any bad experiences with social media?
I actually had only really one, and it was only not too long ago. And it was actually really, really difficult at the time, because it was when I was starting to realize like that I was kind of getting bad again and I needed help. And I was getting some messages off a fake page that, like, about Kobe, like he's like he's a destructive child. Like, he flings himself off everything. Like, I have to literally be staring at him 24/7. But he's a boy. Like, he has bruises. It's normal. But I remember I posted a picture and he had bruises up his leg and on the side of his face from jumping off the sofa, and he smacked his face off the corner of a table. And like, when he hurts himself, I do be like distraught. Like, I do be crying more than him sometimes. But I remember I posted a picture and he was just laughing in the picture, and I was like, that's cute. And I posted it, and I started getting messages off a fake page, sending me screenshots of them, sending anonymous reports to Tulsa, which is like a children's protection company, like in Ireland. And they were sending like tips to this company, saying that they were worried about like the welfare of my child. They sent screenshots of pictures of him with bruises off my Instagram and everything. And this went on for like 2 weeks. I ended up having to go to the guards over it and everything, just in case like that like the children's protection place did show up at my house, like that I had gone to the guards already to show them. And that was like the only bad like kind of experience I ever had with social media. But it was like a really bad, like, it wasn't just like a like you're ugly message. Like, it was like, I'm literally gonna get your child taken off you, which was
that's awful. It's not even as if, like, normally on social media, like whatever page you're on, so like your page, it'd be like you that'd be getting attacked. But the fact that they've completely disregarded you and they went straight for your son's fucking disgusting. Do you have any idea who it might have been? Did you have any thoughts running through your head? Like,
no, I literally no, because I don't really like I don't really have beef with anyone. I tend to like keep to myself and my friends. Like, I don't really.
Yeah. It's the best way to be.
Yeah, so I really have had no idea who it was, but like the page got deleted, and then there was another page made after that, and then there was a third page, and this just went on for like 2 weeks, and then eventually it just stopped. But I think that was kind of like how bad I felt when all that was going on kind of pushed me then to be like, I knew I needed to go get help again. But this was like, okay, like I shouldn't have felt that like bad over like a few messages. So I was like, that's when I was like, right, I need to ring my doctor.
That is a bit worse than just like a couple of abusive messages, of the fact that they've used like screenshots and like sended you reports. So like, obviously with the potential of you getting your son taken off you, like, I can just imagine how petrified you would have been at that point.
Yeah, and I think it was like heightened as well because of the lockdown. So he had literally been glued to me the whole time. So like the thought of like him being taken from me, I was like, I just was like having really bad anxiety. Like, I was just spent like all day shaking, like I couldn't eat, like I couldn't do anything. And I was like, okay, this needs to be like nipped in the bud now.
It's horrible that they can do that through an anonymous page as well. Like, to not even be held responsible. Like, even if they did have real concerns, regardless of what actually happened, if they did have real concerns, you'd think that they would do it from like a real page.
Rather than
so that the fact that it's anonymous makes it look like it is just nasty and horrible, rather than actually having real concerns.
Yeah. That's why, like, I say, like, and a lot of people say as well, like, you should have to, like the way you have with a Revolut account, you have to verify yourself with your passport for the account to be made. You should have to do that on any type of social media as well, because like people do like take their own lives over stuff that happens on social media and over like bullying and trolling. And I know like people who's like this is affected like from their families and all. And I'm like, and nobody's held responsible for it, but if you had to use your passport or use your driver's license or use some sort of like government ID to make these pages, then there would be way less of this going on because nobody would want to get caught. And like that's why they make the fake pages, because they don't want to get caught.
I think that's got to be coming soon, especially with like the racism that's happening in sport just now as well. I don't think something like that's too far away. I think that's the only way to get over that sort of thing, where you're going to be able to hold people responsible, is by uploading it and having some form of digital passport. The thing is, it's taking people's freedom away that use the service well, and like nobody wants to give that information over, willingly, but unfortunately, it's a small minority that's ruining it for everybody.
It's similar to Thierry Henry, the Arsenal footballer. Like, he's deleted all of his social media until it comes a point where you need to verify yourself, and then he'll come back on it, he says, because obviously he's quite a big figure, so hopefully that's kind of speeding up the process. But it's just ridiculous that people can go away with saying things, doing things, and that, like, all behind a mask pretty much. It's just a very cowardly thing to do, and I feel sorry for these people because they've clearly got what you done.
Sorry, that tea was freezing cold. Sorry.
What was I saying?
I don't know, I can't remember.
I feel sorry for these people that is giving the abuse out, because they're clearly struggling with their own problems to come out and have to do stuff like that. I'm not going to say they're bored, but you need to be very bored to go out your way to make someone else's life miserable. It's a strange one, really. So, just a bit on your background, you say that you used to travel the world about being a dancer and stuff. And that was when you sort of suffered with panic attacks. Do you want to talk to us a bit about that?
Yeah, so I actually remember my very first panic attack really well, because it obviously was the first time ever happened to me, and I had no idea what was going on. And I had just been in Paris with my dance school. We had been over there, I think we were over there twice. This is our first time going over, and we would go over to represent Ireland over there. And we had come home, and I literally stepped off the plane, and I was just walking up that carriage, like the carriage when you step off a plane to go out to where all the baggage like things are. And I was just walking, and I just felt like a real tightness in my chest. I felt like I couldn't breathe. And then obviously, because I didn't know what was going on, that brought on like even more panic. So it was even harder to catch my breath. And I was like sitting on the floor, I was crying, like shaking and trying to catch my breath. And nobody really knew what was going on, because this is going on like nearly 10 years ago. Oh, that makes me feel really old. But yeah, so like nearly 10 years ago, I was only about 14, and they had to call the paramedics in the hospital, and like they came out, and it was like a big like dramatic thing. Like they came out, and I was put in a wheelchair and brought away, and like they checked me over, and like they said that I was fine. Like there was like, and this like really stood out to me, because they were like, yeah, you're fine, like there's nothing wrong with you, you just had a little bit of an anxiety attack, you're probably just tired, like so just go home and like rest and you'll be grand tomorrow. And like back then, like nobody really talked about it that much, and nobody really knew like much about it. So I was like, okay, like I'm fine, that's grand. So I went home, like didn't think anything of it. And then they just started becoming more regular. Like I was really fidgety like all the time, like with my hands. I used to wear a lot of rings, whereas like now I can't. My therapist tells me I'm only to wear like one or two, because if I have loads of rings, I'm constantly like pushing them up and down my fingers or twisting them. Like I just get really fidgety. And then I started like pulling at my hair. Like I would pull out my hair, pull out my eyebrows, pull out my eyelashes, like, and I was just really anxious all the time. And I really didn't have any idea what was going on with me until like my panic attacks started becoming more like intense and more like frequent. So they started coming weekly, like they would come like once or twice a week, and they started getting really bad to the point like that I would for example, I could be in my room and then I'd wake up downstairs, like on the kitchen floor or something, blacked out, and I would have no idea how I got from my room to the kitchen. I'd have no idea how long it lasted or like what happened. And then it was then that my mom and dad were like, okay, we need to bring you like to get checked because something is like definitely not right here. And that's when I was 14 then, when I got diagnosed with anxiety and panic disorder and depression, and I just got put straight onto medication and put straight into like children's counselling then.
Yeah. So do you know what initially triggered that? Like, obviously you've come off the plane and stuff. Do you know what the cause of it all was? Is there anything that maybe happened before then that made you like the anxious person and stuff?
Like I had like such a great like childhood and such a great like upbringing. I'm the only girl, like, so I was a spoiled child, like, really. And like I've been everywhere, like, and I like there's nothing that like could have triggered it, but like that's what like I kind of learned like when I was going to counseling, that like it doesn't have to be brought on by triggered. Like sometimes people's brains are just wired this way. Like you just have like a chemical imbalance that only kind of brought itself to the surface now, and like there's nothing really that you can do about it except like keep on working on yourself. Like it doesn't, like the fact that people think like that something horrible or something terrible has to happen to you for you to go through this, that's not the case. Like, yeah, that's why medication is there, because a lot of the time it is chemical imbalances. Your body just isn't creating enough of a certain hormone.
Mm-hmm. I just felt like, obviously, when I had my first panic attack and stuff, it was a lot easier to get closure and stuff if I made a trigger up. Like that's just something that had happened beforehand, and I thought that's what's caused it, so I'm just not going to do that again.
Yeah.
But then obviously,
no, but that makes sense.
But then obviously, like you were saying, as they kept coming, they got worse. Whereas like I was complete opposite. Like obviously after the first one, which was like the worst by far, I kind of knew what it was by then, so I didn't feel like so exaggerated after that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a strange one.
I think maybe the difference between yours is probably the age. Obviously, everybody's different and deals with things differently. But I've not read as much as I'd like to into it. But it seems like quite a young age, and it doesn't seem as common in women for that to happen that early.
Yeah, well, like, especially, I'm not too sure, like, but especially I just remember back then, like, nobody really talked about it. Like, I hadn't heard about panic attacks, I hadn't heard about anxiety or anything like that young, whereas now, like, kids this age and teenagers this age, it's like a really spoken about thing. So I'm not actually even too sure about if it's not like more normal or not for it to happen back then, but I just know it wasn't talked about. So yeah, I'm actually not too sure on that one.
Yeah, we spoke about it in the past about how it's taken, say, about 10 years for it to actually become one of the main topics in school. Like I can remember at school there was nothing spoke about. There was maybe an odd poster or something in the corridor, but who's going to look at a poster in the corridor at that age? You know what I mean? Yeah, unless you're a geek. But nah. It's definitely a good thing that it's getting spoken about more now, because obviously people have more awareness about it all, which is obviously the main thing. But I think the next step is kind of getting people to come forward. Like, it's not a weakness. Like, you wouldn't be like, have blood gushing out your hand. Oh no, if I go to the hospital, I'm weak. It's like, well, if you don't go, you might bleed out. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing about mental health. Like, it could get on top of you really quickly unless you kind of nip it in the bud, like kind of what you're saying. The whole Instagram situation's kind of made you go to the doctors because you could feel yourself getting bad again, which is amazing that you've realised that and you've went and got help. But nah, it's a very talked about subject these days, and I think that's a good thing. Although I'd love to not be able to talk about it and we could all just be but it's just one of those things.
So did you get to a certain age? Did you ever have like a break from the panic, like after the initial sort of like doctor's appointments and the counselling? Did you have a sort of a break from it, and then something that's come back on later, or?
Yeah, so I was in like a children's and like adolescent counselling service from when I was 14 till I was 18. I was in it the whole way through my teenage years, and at 18 I had to be discharged because obviously I wasn't a teenager anymore, like your class as an adult then. So, but like at that stage, like I probably could have like been discharged a year beforehand, but I was just so comfortable there. Like as like people are saying like that they're so scared to go, whereas I was scared to leave because that was like my comfort. I knew that I had those appointments coming up, and if I had anything, even if I just had a fight with my mom or a fight with my brother, I was like, I can go here this weekend, just tell her all about it, and that'll be off my chest and onto hers, like basically. So like leaving was more scary for me than Anne, even though I knew I was ready to go. And after that, like I was finished school and everything. I had started dance college, and I was just feeling like great. I was like, I'm finished school, I'm going to dance college, I'm traveling with my friends, I'm like doing all this like really great stuff, and it's so fun. Like I'm cured basically, like is what I was thinking. So I went to my doctor and I was like, okay, I want to be weaned off my medication. So I had prescriptions for like Xanax, but I didn't obviously take it all the time. It was just if I felt something coming on, I would always have one with me and try and take it to calm myself down before like it started. And then I was on Lexapro as well, which is an antidepressant, and I was on the highest dose. So it took me a year to be weaned off them. So I was like 19 going on 20 when I was fully weaned off, and like I was still like, this is great, like my life is great, like I'm cured, whatever. And then I hadn't had panic attacks in like I'd say a year. Sometimes I still felt a little bit anxious, but like that's normal. Who doesn't like feel anxious from time to time? And then it was in 2018 was like I turned 20 in the September of 2017, and then 2018 was just like such a horrible year for me. Like I that's the year I lost my cousin to suicide, and then I also had a miscarriage, like all in the space of 4 months. And I knew then, like this is where like my downfall was, because I knew then that I needed to reach out again, that I needed help. But because I think I was a bit in denial, because my life had been going so well for the last like year and a half, I was like, no, I'm fine, like just ignore it. So because I wasn't getting the help that I needed, my body like basically took it out in different ways, which was for me was like weight loss. So I literally dropped like 20 kilos in the space of like four months. Those 4 months where all that was going on, I dropped 20 kilos. So I went from like being like really fit, really in shape and everything, to like severely underweight. Like I think my lowest was like 36 kg, which is like severely underweight. Like that's, I think like I remember my doctor telling me that I weighed the same as an average 8-year-old, like, and I was 21, 22, like. So that was like really, really bad. And it was then like when people started pointing out to me, like telling me like, oh, you look really sick, and like everywhere I went, people were saying like, are you sure you're okay? Like you don't look well, like you're this and you're that. And then that was like, okay, yeah, I really need to do something again. And then that's when I started getting kind of not as severe panic attacks, but they started coming back again. And that's when I was like, okay, we need to do something again here. But it was kind of hard. It was kind of harder the second time around, because I thought I was finished with it after like I had been discharged and I had been weaned off my medication. I was like, I'm finished with it now. Like, so coming to terms with it for a second time round like that okay, I'm actually not finished with it, like it's still here, was really hard. But like that just goes back to some people just have a chemical imbalance. Like I'm just gonna have to live with this and like learn how to deal with it basically. And if medication is something that I have to be on long term for me to not have to feel that way, then like that's just something that I'm gonna have to do. And like I shouldn't have to feel embarrassed about taking it. Like as like my mom would say to me, like she has like high blood pressure. She was like, I take medication every day for high blood pressure, like so that I don't die basically. Like so she was like, this is like you like just taking these so you don't feel bad all the time. Like it's normal. Like medication is there to be taken to help. Like so I think that was like the second time round was much harder to come to terms with than the first time.
Mm-hmm. Just if we go back a bit before we get into that sort of stuff, like see obviously when you got discharged from the whole like child support side of things,
Mm-hmm.
is there anybody you continue to check in with, whether it be a friend, member of your family, or a relative or something that like spoke to, like Akin says that if you've had an argument during the week with say your mother or something, and then you go to there, you're like talking about it, like, well, this fucking happened, and then you come out feeling all like relaxed and stuff.
Yeah, well, like I had my friends and stuff, and then my GP, like he's always been really like great. He would do like monthly check-ins with me. He would just to see like how I was doing, like how I was feeling, if I needed to talk, if I needed like and like that. So he would do like he called them like mental check Mondays, like where he would call me like the first Monday of every month and just like have a chat, like to make sure I was still doing okay, I was still going grand. And yeah, he still does that now. Like it's been 10 years nearly, and I still get the phone calls.
That's a good thing though. At least you've got somebody to sort of speak to and let some weight off your shoulders and stuff.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the whole, like, which sounds like the worst 4 months of your life, from my point of view, having to deal with like a miscarriage and then obviously losing your cousin. How did that kind of make you feel at that point in time? Like when all that stuff was happening, because I can remember you says like, oh no, I'm a really strong person now. I've kind of been through it all. Like I can deal with this as well. So how was that kind of like you telling yourself a lie to try and hope that makes you feel better?
Yeah, like I was kind of like when all this was going on, I was like really obviously like really, really down. Like I was like, I'd be like in my room, like crying every night, like literally cried myself to sleep for months. But then I'd get up and I'd be going out like the next morning with my friends, and like they would be constantly like, are you okay? Like if you need anything, and I'd be like, I'm fine. Like it's just something, like I just have to get on with it. Like it's just like I've done all this before. I've gotten through like all this stuff. So like this is just another thing. Like I can handle it. But like I knew I wasn't handling it, because I'd get home from being out with them all day and I'd cry myself to sleep. Like so
yeah,
that was probably, like as I said, that was probably the hardest part, was like coming to terms that this was happening again, like that it wasn't just a once off thing.
Mm-hmm. It's strange that you say that you would obviously go out with your friends and stuff, and like they're asking you if everything's all right, and you're obviously like, yeah, I'm fine. But at that point in time, you're not really thinking about what's making you sad. But as soon as you're isolated and you're at home, lying in bed, in the shower, doing whatever, as long as you're like, when you're isolated, all you've got is your own thoughts. And I think that's when people start to bury themselves, and then that's when you get like the whole crying and feeling down. So probably when you're getting up and going out during the day, like that's just kind of putting that to one side, because you're obviously focusing on, you're spending time with your friends, and then you're obviously coming home and you're focusing on that one thing.
Like I was distracting myself.
Yeah, aye. Which it isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
But obviously when you're coming out, aye, it can be. Yeah, I 100% agree. But obviously when you're coming home every night and you're dealing with the same sort of thing, but obviously comes a point where you're like, I need to deal with this. I can't afford to keep going out living the life of a lie and then coming home and being depressed pretty much.
Yeah.
So what was the kind of next steps you took after that? So obviously you were going through this kind of cycle with distraction and then like being devastated.
So like all the weight loss, like I've always was like really confident girl, like all like my friends always used to slag me and all, being like, or like slag my baby's dad, like saying like she'll never like love you as much as she loves herself and all this, like just like, because I always was just really confident in myself, and this was like really hard for me because of how much weight I lost, and none of my clothes would fit me, and like I was a I don't know if you know the right venue, it's a Club and Swords. I was a rights dancer, so I was like one of the girls like that would be up like on the stage, like basically in like
nothing,
tiny pieces of clothing, and like I didn't even want to do that anymore, which I used to love doing it because I was like, I look disgusting, like, and then none of my clothes fit me. I was going around in like baggy like tracksuits and baggy t-shirts all the time to try and hide like what I was looking like. And it actually was only when I found out so this went on for a year, literally a full year, and it was only when I found out that I was pregnant on my little boy like that, then I was like, okay, like what are you actually doing, Zoe? Like this is going on too long. You need to sort yourself out, like it's not just you anymore. And the doctor, my doctor especially, and my family, they were really worried when I got pregnant, because obviously your hormones are all over the place, they change, and like there's a really high risk for postnatal depression for people who have like suffered previously with their mental health. So that, like, my mom was terrified when I got pregnant, but not only for my mental health, but also because I was so underweight and I'd been so sick for the last year, that she was worried about what was going to happen to me, like how my body was going to like adapt to it. But the doctors like was saying to me, like, your body will, this is a good thing, like your body's going to restart itself, like this could be its like way of kickstarting itself, like you're going to put on weight again, like this and that. But obviously because of like my past mental health problems and stuff, I was in referred to like the mental health part of the maternity hospital. So I had like monthly check-ins with them, appointments with their counselors, and I was with a dietitian monthly as well over the weight. So they were actually a really great support, and like a really needed one that I probably wouldn't have had if I wasn't pregnant, really. And that was when I started getting a little bit of help there. And then when I had my son, it was like everything just disappeared. I was in like a little bubble of like happiness, like, and I was like, this is like the best time of my life ever, like I'm cured again, basically. And after a couple of months, and we went back into lockdown, and when I had my son, I put on like normal weight for being pregnant, like, and then when I had my son, I literally, it just dropped off me. Like I left the hospital in size extra small leggings like the next day, and that's not normal. Like the midwives were like to me, that is not normal, what just happened to you? But it was because I was so underweight that like there was nothing else there. And yeah, that once that kind of newborn bubble kind of faded a bit, I was just like, do you know what, like this has been going on for too long. And that's when I rang my doctor and I was like, I need medication again, and I need to go back to therapy. And obviously because I'd only been in a children's one, I wasn't sure what direction to go in. So he like pointed me in the direction of some like good like therapists around my area, and then that's when I met my current therapist. Like I'm going on nearly a year with her now.
Yeah.
See, just in terms of the weight loss, how did that sort of manifest itself? Was it like a conscious effort, or was it more like just a lack of appetite, or was it over exercise? How did that sort of come about?
it literally, I think it was just like my body's reaction to what was going on, and the fact that I wasn't helping myself. Like I was just, it was like stress and anxiety and all this all in one. And like it wasn't a conscious thing like for me, because like I loved how I looked. Like I'm not gonna like like yeah, I loved how I looked like, and so I that was my one thing, like that no matter what way I was feeling, I always took pride in like how I looked. I always liked to be dressed well, like whatever. And so I think this was like my body's way of like trying to cope with what I wasn't coping with, if that makes sense. But it just fell off me, like completely fell off me, and so quickly as well. It was actually scary.
So how did you feel when you obviously, like, she obviously took so much pride in your appearance, like, because obviously we'll do the same, we'll check in at the mirror.
Yeah.
So it's not a fucking pretty sight right now.
No. Fucking lockdown bod 2.0. So like obviously everybody checks in with their, like, their appearance and stuff, and obviously you're gradually seeing that decline. So what are you feeling at that point in time when you're like seeing like, what you're so proud of, like, break away, if you know what I mean?
I felt like I actually felt disgusting. Like I felt even worse than I had previously, because when I still looked good, I could hide the way I was feeling, but when you look bad, you can't. So everyone was constantly like questioning me, like, are you okay? Like, you're after losing loads of weight, like you look sick, like this and that. Like the doctors like were like asked me, was I doing it intentionally? Like, and the whole focus was on like the way I was feeling, and then that like made it even worse for me. It was like everything was heightened. So that was like really difficult then.
Yeah, I think everybody can understand it, maybe not to the same degree, but just that feeling of looking at yourself and going, for fuck's sake, like,
yeah.
like what are you doing? Like, and sometimes it's the other way of eating too much, like in my case.
Yeah.
Like you just look at it like, fucking hell, like what are you doing? But the same with under eating and overeating. It's trying to change the habits is very difficult, as like the majority of the population can probably understand.
And even like I wasn't allowed to, my doctor, like told me I wasn't allowed to work, or I wasn't allowed to dance or anything like that, or go to the gym until my weight went back up, because it was so dangerous. Like he said, like your body like is literally, he basically told me like your body's literally giving up on you. Like he was like, you go to the gym and you're going to be lifting weights and feel like weak or feel dizzy and collapse with a load of weights on top of you. He was like going dancing, going to the gym, going to work, like it's a health risk. Like he was like, you're not allowed to do it. So I had like medical clearance from work for months, because it was just too dangerous for me to be like out and like doing stuff like that.
Yeah. And did you feel that fatigue personally, or were you just so caught up in how you were feeling mentally that you didn't really feel the effects of that?
No, I didn't really feel the effects of it. Like I was like, I don't even know how to explain it. I was like, I wanted to be out, like, and I wanted to be doing all these things, and it felt like it didn't matter. Like my appetite never changed from when I had all the weight to I lost it. It was still I was still eating the same as I was. Wasn't like I was under eating or anything. So I was trying to eat more, trying to put weight on. I was getting like, the doctor had prescribed me drinks, these little drinks that had like 600 calories in like a tiny bottle to drink as well as that. And like, it didn't matter what I was doing, the weight just wasn't going back on. So, and it was because of how I was feeling mentally. It was because of the stress and like the anxiety and everything that I was feeling, that my body was just feeling the same way as my brain was, if that makes sense. So it was really difficult. That was.
It's strange how the body works though. Like even you just saying there, like you never had any loss of appetite, and you were actually eating more, but yet you still weren't gaining weight.
Mm-hmm.
But like for like under a normal circumstance, like I could maybe I can have like a biscuit or something. I feel like I've put on like 2 stone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or you a bit of broccoli and wonder why you've not got a 6-pack yet or something like that.
But I can totally understand how terrifying that must have been. And I mean, it doesn't really help when you've got people come up to you saying, you look ill. I'm like, hello, I'm fucking well aware. I've got a mirror in my house.
Yeah. Literally.
That's kind of difficult as well, because obviously they people aren't doing it to be nasty. They're doing it because they're worried about you, but they don't know that that's the 5th time that somebody said that today, and you could really just be doing without hearing it.
Yeah.
So, moving on in terms of obviously the birth of your son, Kobe. Obviously having a miscarriage before that. What was kind of going through your head when you found out that you were pregnant again? Were you worried? Well, of course you were. You've been worried, obviously, considering what happened in the past. But how did you kind of cope with that side of things?
So it's actually funny because I was going through, well, not funny, but I was going through tests when I was actually pregnant and I didn't know. Like I was over 4 months when I found out, and I was going through tests because I'd lost so much weight. They were worried about like my fertility and if I could ever get pregnant. But meanwhile, like he was there, like cooking away. So I kind of just looked at it like I say, like basically, like kind of my whole mindset changed. I was like, if I'm like stressed and anxious and worried and whatever, that's the way he's gonna feel as well, because he obviously feels what I feel. So I was like, if I am calm and like positive and like this and that, like that's how the pregnancy is gonna go. So where I was looking at it like, right, I'm getting these tests done. I'm that I might not be able to have kids, and like, what if this is the one? What if this is the one that I can have? This is the only time that I'll have like a pregnancy that will progress. I was like, I need to do everything that I can to make sure that it goes okay. And then I think what being pregnant, which is so weird because usually that would take a toll on your mental health, but being pregnant actually really helped me, because I was saying like, it's not just me. I have this little person like that I need to think of as well. So that time actually really helped me kind of like feel a lot better and like help myself. And then that's why I started going to the mental health clinic in the Rotunda, and I was going to the dietitian, and I was literally doing everything that I could to make sure that everything was going to go okay. And like though that time that I was pregnant was actually probably the easiest time out of like the last 2 years, I'd say, which is weird.
Yeah.
It's weird, like I'm sure every mother, maybe apart from mine, would say like the birth of their son was like the best thing that has ever happened to them. But it sounds like in your case that it saved your life basically.
Yeah, like that's what I have said. Like, and sometimes I do look at him and I'm like, you're like so oblivious to like everything that you've done, and you haven't even done anything, like just existing, like literally just existing.
He just grew a little bit.
Yeah.
What was I going to say there? It was a ripper.
Was it?
Aye. Fuck, it's because you started talking.
Sorry, mate.
Bastard, I'll come back to it. But so see, in terms of like you having this kind of, I found it. It's strange because like obviously responsibility wise, it wasn't that you weren't intentionally not looking after yourself, but when you're giving someone else to look after, you put your 100% into it. So obviously you finding out that you were pregnant, it's very similar to like someone else coming into your life. Mm-hmm. So like, say, I don't know, you were in a relationship with somebody and they were going through some shit, but you've also felt shit. You're going to put a lot more into them than yourself. It's just the way the majority of us are built. Like, don't get me wrong, there are people out there that don't give a shit, but I think that's where the whole things came from. Like, you're no longer having to look after yourself, but in looking after him, you're having to look after yourself because he's obviously inside you at this point in time. But no, it's quite amazing how it all come about. It's like, what is an epiphany?
An epiphany, aye.
That's a rip. So obviously once you found out you were pregnant, obviously that's 4 months down the line. So you say that you went to see like a dietitian, doing all these little bits and bobs, like healthcare wise. Did you do anything self-care wise? So like out with the hospitals and stuff, like maybe go for walks, listen to meditation, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so I kind of practice gentle birth, like, and hypnobirthing, which is like my auntie, my godmother, she works as a doula, which is like they promote, like, she's basically like a birthing partner for women. So she promotes like gentle birth and like hypnobirth, and so it's all like no drugs, like
natural.
Like natural, like everything is like yoga and breathing and like doing things that like bring your oxytocin levels up. So like music and like dancing and lights and smells and stuff that like you like and that make you happy, and like incorporate that into your pregnancy and your births. And yeah, she really helped a lot, like with all that, like, and it's all like about like it's your journey, like it's no one else's. Whereas when you're young, like the doctors tend to tell you what to do, whereas like if I didn't have her, I would have just let the doctors do whatever they wanted to me. Whereas she was telling me like, no, you don't actually have to do that. Like you can make it your own experience, like in your own journey. And I think because I knew all this and I'd gotten all this information from her, that made it so much easier and so much like so much more helpful.
Yeah.
Because like doctors, for example, like telling me because I'm so small, I won't be able to give birth to my son. They wanted to do a C-section, and like my auntie was saying to me, like 100 years ago when they didn't do C-sections, how did small people give birth? Like your body is made to do that. You just need to practice. You need to do like your like yoga positions, do your breathing, do your this and that, like, and you'll be fine. Like she was like, don't like. She always called it like white coat syndrome, like don't let the like men in the white coats like tell you what to do. Like, so yeah, like that, as I said, like my pregnancy was probably like the best part of like the last 2 years.
It is amazing like how resilient the human body is with that sort of thing. Like I had a friend, so I'm sorry if they're listening, I apologize if I get the dates wrong, but it was something like that they did the pregnancy test on the Wednesday or something like that, and found out she was pregnant, and then booked in a scan. And then, for example, the scan was on the Monday, and when they went for the scan, they said you were actually due Friday there. So like the Friday before.
My God.
So they're like, oh shit. And they were just back from Florida, and she was like, I've drank the whole way through that. I was just on that Hulk ride in Florida. Like, is the baby going to be okay? And the doctor was like, look, people give birth in all sorts of circumstances. Like, babies grow up in extreme poverty, and you know, mothers can barely afford to eat, and you get a healthy baby at the other side. Like, it's people are unbelievably what was the word I used last time? Resilient. Aye.
It's mad.
So what was I going to say? It's actually quite strange that you say that though, because like I was under the impression, like obviously I'm a boy, so I don't really know much about pregnancy and shit yet. Like obviously the doctor side of things, they're like you're just like another client to them. Like obviously being a pregnant woman, so it's just going to be a case sit in, get the job done, out. Whereas you kind of personalised it, which is quite amazing.
Yeah.
So you've got something that you can, like all these memories, like people's going to ask like, oh, did you get, is it oxygen or something? Like these are standard questions. These are standard questions, but you can be like, oh no, I had this going on, I had the tunes on, I had these aromas and shit, which is amazing. I just think that's quite fascinating.
New car smell going on.
So obviously after you've had Kobe and stuff, that's kind of the passing of the responsibility. So he's no longer like in you anymore, obviously. Yeah. But you obviously need to look after him out with. So how did you continue to look after yourself as well as looking after Kobe at the same time at like that point in time?
When he was first born, I was really overprotective. Like I didn't want to let anyone have him. I wanted like even my like his dad had booked for me to get my hair done, like if I think it was like 2 weeks after I gave birth, and I made him come to, I was in the hairdressers for like 2 hours, I think, and I made him come to the hairdressers 4 times to show me Kobe through the window so that I could see that he was fine. Like I was so overprotective, and I think it was because like everything that had gone on, like I had no control over my life for the last like 2 years, with my body, with my mind, with the stuff that was happening around me, my cousin, the miscarriage. Like I didn't have control over anything, but now I had Kobe and I have control over him. I controlled what he wore, who he was with, when he fed, like all this stuff. And I think like I kind of like, he was kind of my coping mechanism for a while.
Yeah.
And me being able to have that bit of control again over something really helped, which is kind of weird, but yeah, that's kind of what helps me.
It's amazing though. But obviously I think that's natural for you to be so protective, because obviously you've just been through, what is it, 9 months?
9 months.
Yeah.
9 months. Well, not in most cases torture, but yours was the complete opposite. It was fucking, it sounds like a therapy session.
Yeah.
So you've obviously been through that, and then at the end of the day, it's yours, or he's yours, I should say. So you obviously want to protect him, and you want to make sure nothing happens to him, because I think that's perfectly natural, like going to the hairdressers 4 times in a one day.
Yeah.
Surprised he's got any hair left.
Yeah.
But so that I think that takes us back to like the future. So well, no, back to the future.
Fucking hell.
Back to the present, here and now. So how are you coping? So how are you today? Pretty much. How's things now?
I'm a lot better now than I was. Like I'm got back going to therapy. Like I actually go to my therapist's house every week, because she actually only lives around the corner from me, and her practice was in Rathmines, which is like the south side of Dublin, and I live like the far north side, so it would take me like an hour to get over there. And one day she was like, just like to me, Zoe, like I literally only live around the corner from you, and when everything's shut and stuff, she was like, do you want to just come to my house? Because I was like, I actually can't not see you, like I need to see you. Like, so I've been going to her house every week, like for sessions, and I take medication again, which like before I was kind of like, oh, I don't really want people to know that I'm taking medication, but now I'm like, I take it, it makes me feel better. If you think you need it, like you do it too. Like it's not, and like that I should feel the need to hide, like, but I'm doing a lot better now. Like good things are happening now, and I think because I'm like feeling better, when you feel better, good things happen to you. Like that's kind of the way I look at it. Like the universe like gives you things. So like I'm feeling a lot better, and now I just got a new job. I just passed my driving test. Like all these good things are happening, and I'm like, it's because I'm putting the work in that the universe is giving me these things back. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at now.
So that's us back here. Fucking I'm having a shocker now.
And see, in terms of therapy sessions that you're going to, is that government funded, or is that like a private?
It's private. So like the mental health facilities over here, although they are great when you're in them, they're like really, like most of them are non-profit, and there's huge waiting lists for them. So the one that I go to is private, but a lot of private places now, they do like low cost therapy. So like based on like your income or your situation or your age and anything. So like a regular session would be like €75 for 40 minutes, like 45 minutes. Whereas which is these private places that are now doing like low cost therapy, it's €25 for a session, which like it makes it so much more accessible for people who need it as well.
But even when you look at it like that, like if you're checking in every week, that's £100 of your wages for the month.
Euro.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's pretty much the same thing, isn't it?
No, it's pretty much.
But that's kind of what we're trying to do as well. So as much as we're doing like the podcast side of things, we want to eventually get a charity up and running when we've got time.
Yeah.
And the whole basis here is whatever money we raise will go towards paying for people's private treatments, because obviously you've said it yourself, even in Ireland, the public sort of one, the waiting list is ridiculous. So people aren't getting the help when they need it. So we're kind of encouraging people to go private. I'm not saying that private will have a better quality than the public
it's just
service.
quicker.
Aye, but it gets a problem seen to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what we're hoping to do. But
I mean, even €25, like I would be in the position where I'd be lucky enough to be able to afford that, like the £100 or €100 a month. But some people are not in that position and are sort of living paycheck to paycheck, and then then you're on this waiting list and waiting however many months to see somebody, and the problem gets worse and worse. So although they're doing these low cost things, which are great and which can include a lot more of the population than the €75 cost, but still I think it's still not quite enough.
I think it all kind of depends. Like my therapist, like she has like multiple times like checked with me, like, is €25 still okay for you? Like, can you still do that? Like if you can't, like, let me know and we'll figure something else out. So I think they are, well, I know she is anyways, I can't speak for anyone else, but like being flexible, especially now, like with what's going on. But like, just like the waiting list I think because the waiting list for public is so long, like my doctor put in an emergency referral for me, obviously because of my past problems and like everything that had gone on. He put in an emergency one for me, and that was in April last year, and I didn't get contacted until August saying do I still want to be on the waiting list. And there's another, like, I think they said like 4 months wait before I could get seen, and I was like, this is an emergency referral and it would be like December before I got seen by them. Imagine somebody who just called up themselves, like who wasn't referred by a doctor, how long they would be waiting. It's scary.
Yeah, it's annoying. We're sort of in this this catch-22 situation where you want people to talk about the obviously problems that they're having, but the more people that come forward and talk about it, the less resources are available.
Yeah,
so, like, it's sort of like an impossible. And I think it will eventually even itself out when they realise the resources that are required. But this is only like development, as you said, like in the last 10 years, where it's really come to the front of how important this is. So I think it's going to take quite a bit of time to catch up. It might be another decade or two before we're properly caught up and have the right resources to deal with the amount of people that's going to come forward, because it's just going to get worse. Especially in the society that we live in just now. It's with fucking TikTok and Instagram and all this shit.
You're mad for TikTok, are you not?
I love TikTok. I love TikTok. It's so entertaining.
It's one of the things, like, what was it? TikTok used to be pretty much. What was it called?
Vine,
yeah.
So it's like one of the apps where you go on, you're just like, oh, I'll go on for a minute, and then 2 hours later, you're just still fucking next video.
Like, I would like go to bed and be like, right, I'll just watch TikTok for 5 minutes, and then it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, oh, fuck's sake.
It is addictive, but it is good stuff that's on it. I've not seen really any negative stuff, which is a good thing. To be fair, I don't look at the comments and stuff on it, but I just watch the videos and then scroll on.
I think it's better than Instagram, because everyone just really takes the piss on TikTok. Like, it's just more for like fun and like joking, like, and whereas Instagram is more serious. Like, so yeah, I love TikTok. I just love it.
So that's a really good platform for like nobodies that want to get their name out there. Like the amount of people that has become someone through TikTok is unbelievable.
Yeah. I'm not sure that's a good thing.
How?
Because look at if you look at the people that have made someone of themselves, it generally is arseholes.
It's arseholes, but they're good at what they do.
That's the thing, though, they're not doing anything. That's the problem. I'm just jealous, really. That's what it is, that I've not got a good enough personality to possibly.
We'll make a TikTok.
We'll make
fannies with a microphone.
Aye. Do some fucking stupid dance.
So this is the point now, Zoe, where if you could give anybody one piece of advice through your past experiences, what would it be?
It would be, don't ignore how you're feeling. Like, you know, whether it's your brain telling you how you're feeling or your body telling you how you're feeling, you know when something is different, and don't be afraid to reach out for help, whether you go through like a family member or a friend, or you go straight to a professional. If it's something that's going to help you, then like do it. And also, don't be scared of medication. Like, sometimes it's a medical imbalance, it's a chemical imbalance in your brain, and you need it to feel better. So yeah, it's just don't be afraid of how you're feeling. Talk about it.
Amazing.
Really
Perfect.
So thanks very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
I know. Hopefully,
thanks for having me.
Hopefully we can do the next one in person. We'll take this on the road. Away day.
European.
European tour.
It sounds weird saying Ireland in Europe.
I know. European tour, and we'll do it in a pub or something.
But so this is going to be available on both YouTube and Spotify. If there's anything that's either brought back some memories, you've got any questions, you can either ask Zoe. Am I right to tag your Instagram in this?
Yeah.
So if anybody's got any questions, they can just come straight to your cell about maybe what you've experienced and stuff. Because if somebody asks me about pregnancy, I'm just going to be like,
we've not got a clue.
I've got a lockdown bod, mate, but I promise you I'm not pregnant.
We've not got a clue about anything, so don't ask us.
But no, thanks very much. It was amazing.
It really was. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we hope everybody enjoys the episode, and we'll speak to you next time.
Stop.